How are you doing today, Jasmine?
Hey guys, my name is Zubi and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, please feel free to hit the subscribe button down below and join me on this YouTube thing. Today I'm bringing you guys 5 study methods that you can use in university or high school, or whether you're working or anywhere, because Lord knows I would have needed these when I first joined university. Basically, I'm just going to tell you what the technique is, I'll give you an example, and then I will tell you why it's more efficient. But yeah, enough of me jibber jabbering over here, and let's just get into the video. So the first technique I'm bringing you is the Pomodoro Technique. This is basically a time management technique where you do your work in a segment of 25 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break. This is usually repeated 4 times before you take a longer break of 15 to 30 minutes. And let me give you a little bit of an example of what it is. So let's say you want to study a specific subject like biology. Let's give that example. You gather your biology stuff and you set them down. Then you go and find a timer. The timer specific to the Pomodoro technique can be found online. They can be found on an app store as well as a Google Play Store. Or you can just choose to time yourself by looking at the clock or using your in-phone built timer, if that is how you say it. So once you're ready to start studying, you then start the timer that was set for 25 minutes. Once the timer rings, that signals the end of your 25-minute studying session, and that is when you start the timer for your 5-minute break. During this break, I really recommend you do not use your phone, because that time will pass like this. The time will fly by and you'll be looking at it like, where did you run to? So I really recommend that you should actually, instead of just using your phone, do something productive like read a book or just listen to a bit of music or just lay there, breathe and think about life, But don't use your phone, because the break will not feel like it's actually done anything to you. After this break is done, you can then do another set of 25 minutes studying and 5-minute break. You're supposed to do 4 of these sets before you take a 15-minute break or a 30-minute break, which is going to be the longer break after all of that work. Of course, if the 25-minute timer signals for you to end when you're halfway through a question or something like that, feel free to take a few more minutes to finish that question before you actually take your break. This method is going to increase your productivity, and let me tell you why. What most people do, and let me tell you, I am also very guilty of this. What most people do is, we all know we've done this before. We study for 2 hours. Those long 2 hours, and then you're like, okay, I'll just take a 1-hour break. That 1-hour break stretches to 2 breaks, and then you're standing there looking like a fool because you've not studied anything. And the reason this is bad is because even though you think you're studying during those 2 hours, you're really not doing yourself justice, because those 2 hours without giving yourself a break is just overworking your brain, and therefore at a point your brain will get so tired that it is not even going to absorb any information you're giving it anymore. So you're basically reading and the information is not going anywhere. But the Pomodoro technique is effective because with the regular breaks, you give your brain a chance to rest, to absorb all the information, and therefore your studying is more efficient and more productive, and you are retaining a lot more information. The second technique I'm bringing you guys is the Retrieval Practice technique. The Retrieval Practice technique is a technique where you kind of try and fish information out of your brain before just giving it to yourself for free. I know that sounds like a weird description, but I'm going to explain it in a bit more depth right now. So let's say you've just come out of a biology lecture or a biology class, and you want to take a 30-minute break to chill before you start studying what you have learned in that class. What most of us do, me guilty as charged of course, when we're ready to start, we sit down and we just open the book and you just start reading the information you had learned from the notes before. Retrieval practice is, instead of sitting down and just opening your book immediately, it is sitting down and trying to recall the information you had learned in the class before you actually give yourself the notes for free. So basically what it is you can ask yourself questions on the class. Let me give you an example. Let's say you came from the class of bio and you learned cells in the class. Instead of sitting down and immediately opening your reading book and asking yourself, what is a cell, and just reading it immediately, sit down and self-test yourself. You can do this with flashcards or multiple choice questions, but sit down and ask yourself questions related to the topic you've just learned. So you can ask yourself questions like, what is a cell made up of? What are organelles? What is the smallest type of cell? All of those questions before you open your notes to finally give yourself the answer. After you have self-tested yourself with all of this information and tried to recall the information you had learned in the class, you can then figure out what you did not do right, what you didn't seem to understand, or what you could not remember well, and that is what you focus more on when you are studying next. The reason this is a really good method is because it strengthens connections to the information in your brain, making it stay in your long-term memory better, so that when you're trying to recall that information in an exam or something, you won't be sitting there for 5 minutes like, oh, what was that word again, by the way? Because me, I don't remember. You will actually be able to recall it a lot better because these connections have become stronger due to you practicing retrieval practice. Yeah. So as a result, your studying becomes more efficient and more effective, and you're able to spend a lot less time trying to struggle for information that you need. The third technique I have for you guys is the interleaving technique. This is basically a technique where you study multiple subjects at once, mixing how you're studying them in order to improve your learning. Let me explain to you how. So what most of us do is basically you study one subject for, let's say, 2 hours, then you take a long 1 hour break that stretches to 5 hours for real, and then you come back and study another subject for 2 hours, and so on and so on. What interleaving is instead of studying one subject at once, you kind of mix multiple subjects at once, mostly ones with similar backgrounds. So for example, I could decide to interleave and mix the classes biology and psychology that I am learning, and therefore find ways to connect these subjects together in order to have a better understanding of them. Let me give you an example to explain why this is important and why this is helpful. So let's say you're in a psych class and you have an exam, and in the exam you get a question saying, Sarah is a girl that has severe depression. What part of her brain is heightened due to this depression? So let's say you're sitting in that classroom trying to answer the question and you're like, okay, I know for sure that there is a part of the brain that is heightened during depression, but I do not know exactly what part of the brain it is. That is when you can now use your biology to help you answer the psych question because you have decided to study while interleaving these subjects. So you can tap into your bio and be like, okay, in biology, I remember learning that there are different parts of the brain. I remember learning that there's the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, and the temporal lobe. But I also remember that in the center of that, there was this small piece of brain called the amygdala. And the amygdala was responsible for emotions. Now that you have used your biology knowledge to recall the part of the brain it is, you can then take that information and use it to answer the question in your psych exam. So now you can happily fill out the answer knowing you're about to get a whole mark over there. You know what I mean? So by interleaving subjects, you can form connections between each subject, and therefore it will help you have a better understanding of both of them because it wouldn't feel like the subjects are separated. They'll feel like they're connected and therefore be able to give you a better understanding of what you're trying to learn. The fourth method I'm telling you guys is teaching others. This is probably self-explanatory, but let me just tell you a bit more. Basically, this is just when you tell somebody else about the topic you're trying to understand or learn. You could either do this in front of a mirror, you can do it to a family member, or you can just tell your friend who is doing the same subject as you are. Basically, what happens is as you tell them the information and try to explain what you have learned, you are actively recalling the information for yourself and therefore you are revising as well. This also helps you a lot because you're able to put information in your own words and then explain it to someone else, and therefore you will know how to fully put that information into words when you do get a question on it in an exam or something. This is also helpful because by telling someone, you can realize where you've gone wrong or where you don't seem to be giving a proper explanation, and you can then go back to your notes and touch up on what information you did not really know well. This method is especially helpful when you are explaining it to another friend who is doing the exact same topic as you, because if you seem to be struggling with something you don't seem to understand very well, they can then explain that specific part of the topic to you, and maybe you can view it from their perspective and have a better understanding of it and therefore be able to explain it better. So teaching others is a really good method to remembering information, to recalling information, and to helping each other. The fifth and last method I have for you guys is mind mapping. Mind mapping is basically a process where you form a visual map around a central topic that you are trying to understand. So let me bring it back to bio again. So let's say you're studying cells in bio and you're trying to understand what makes up cells. To understand this topic better and to form the connections even stronger, you can draw a visual mind map. This basically consists of drawing somewhat of a circle or something whatever shape you would like in the center of a page. After that, you write your central topic in the center and you kind of make connections to different topics. So if I was doing bio, I'd write cell in the middle, and then I'd make connections to different organelles such as the nucleus or mitochondria and all of that stuff. This is good because by making those connections very distinct, you're able to understand the information better rather than what people do where they study in chunks and never really seem to make proper connections during those chunks. By doing mind mapping, you are able to connect that information a lot better and therefore your studying is more effective. This is also a very good method for people who are more so visual learners, because if you're a visual learner, having that image of a certain, mind map on your table or whatever is going to improve your photographic memory. Therefore, when you're in an exam, you can just think back to the paper and be like, okay, when I was learning about cells, this is what I drew and this is the kind of idea that I had on the map. Therefore, you'll be able to answer questions a lot easier during your exams and everything. And that way your studying is more efficient and more productive and you're going to do a lot more better. But yeah, that is all I have for you guys today. I do hope this topic interested you and I hope you took something out of these studying methods. I know university is coming up soon. People are starting classes online soon. So I'm hoping these study methods will help you a lot more when you're trying to study. And yeah, that is all I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed today's video, please feel free to hit the subscribe button down below and don't forget to turn on your post notifications so that you are notified when I do upload another video. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them down below and I shall answer them if possible. But yeah, that is basically it and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!